um, August. But this is one of those things that I don't want to say it came up suddenly, but it wasn't on the agenda to begin with, and it is right before the game tomorrow. So,
Right. It's
yeah,
not always possible. It's just not.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
staff has their own things that they're scheduling around. So listen, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I'd like for us to be able to attend, but we can't.
yeah, yeah,
It's not
exactly.
preventable. They
Okay,
do everything.
Live, yeah.
Thank you. And so we are welcoming everyone to our personnel and policy agenda, committee agenda for October the 3rd. I am standing in for our chair, Mr. Stephen Klein. And at this time, I will ask if there is any public comment.
not at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. So we will move right into presentations.
Okay, thanks, Madam President. Presentation that we have for you tonight is the requested presentation related to student discipline data. Dr. White is here. She's going to go through that with the committee. Okay,
Thank you.
and I'll stop sharing for her.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good
Thank you
evening.
for having me on. I only have a few slides, so I'm not going to keep everybody long, but I know that we discussed review and discipline data again. So I'm actually just going to share my screen. Pending it wants to be my friend. All right, so this discipline data that we shared last year is what's currently on the screen. So we looked at pre-COVID and post-COVID once we were able to get our principals put in order. The house model was there. We had a new building and leadership at the high school. And then we've also had an increase in mental health supports throughout that time. So if you guys remember, these were the numbers that we were looking at with the notion that 2022-23 school year really was our year of let's get our bearings with our new leadership. So if you really look at that time, the high school was bringing in about 742 suspensions, and the middle school at 448 and a half suspensions, which we all discussed was relatively high. When we look at last year, we see a massive reduction in our suspension rates. And again, these are all suspensions throughout the entire year from in school and out of school. They still all count as suspensions. So what we see is at the high school, we had a 60% decrease in suspensions from the previous school year. We also had a 45% decrease in suspensions from the middle school. And that is just not, we waved our magic wand and now all of a sudden our discipline is lower. That is not accurate. I think really what we did is we had to take a step back and look at what we were doing. At the high school, there were a lot of changes that were put in the mix, and it all started with a student group and eager teachers and staff that and administration that really gave them the power to be able to do a lot of things. So at the teacher, at the student level, they were able to really allocate some goals as to what they really want to see. And they were able to identify after reviewing the discipline data that the hallways was the biggest area that they were seeing disciplinary issues, especially the suspendable ones, which are more likely going to be fighting. So with a lot of different pieces put into place, one thing that they were able to do with the help of the teachers is be able to move the planning periods to the beginning of the day before students get there, which allows for the high school to be able to have a teacher, some type of presence, some type of staff in the hallway at all times, which obviously is going to cut down on things that are happening in the hallway when there's adults there and their supervision. There were other things that they did with their PBIS, being able to really focus on supporting students that are doing well. hearing the voices of not just students who people may identify as model students, but students who also had some disciplinary things on their record as well, being able to have a voice in the building of what they would like to see happening for their kids. One of the biggest thing for me is that they said that the students really wanted people outside of Pottstown School District to know how good of a district they are and how their high school should be recognized for things like that. And actually, they will be recognized for those things. We really looked at how do we best stop the recidivism of students that are being suspended. And that is really doing some check-in, check-outs, increasing mentorship at the high school. They also, if a student is suspended, they have them meet with the counselor or with one of the building principals, the house principals, and be able to have a support plan put together to really curb the reason why that student is being suspended so that we don't have repeat offenders. At the middle school, pretty similar things as well with the house model. I think really having that focus where there's ownership for one principal, one counselor, and a group of teachers really being able to see these students from grade level to grade level, building that relationship, building it early and continuously throughout the time. Again, making sure that that supervision in the hallway is very high, and that increase in mental health and supports are always going to be helpful when we're talking about students being able to work through some of the things that they're going through. We have security guards in the buildings as well, making sure that they have the training that they need to be able to support our students so that small incidents don't erupt into something larger that could be a suspendable offense. But if you can look at the data here, we have made strides, and our goal is to continue to work on these numbers. This is just a breakdown of the middle school's August to June suspensions, where you can discipline, where you can see that the out of school suspensions and the in-school suspensions are obviously going to be higher than some of the alternatives, because there are going to be disciplinary actions, or I should say behaviors that automate to a suspension. So we're talking our fighting, we're talking our drugs, weapons, certain levels of tobacco paraphernalia, threats that are to a higher level. Those things are going to automatically have a suspension. When those behaviors don't always equal a suspension, that's when you see these other things coming in where they're using conferences. They're able to make behavior plans, working with either Creative Health or some of our counselors that we have in the building, but really trying to work with the parent to figure out the best way to have our students be successful. And in the middle school, if you're looking at ethnicity, what you'll see, I'd rather have it out there, is that yes, although if we're looking at ISS, for example, where 37% of our students enrolled are Black and we have 54% when you're looking at the total referrals, and then you're looking at the other things and it seems to be flipped the other way. At the end of the day, if a student does a behavior that warrants a suspension occurs. What I can say is that these numbers are drastically lower than they were last year, the year before, and the year before. So our goal is to continue to work in that manner to be able to bring those numbers down. The suspension doesn't have a race. The suspension doesn't have a color. The suspension is to the student because of the behavior. Oh, let me go back if I can. So I love looking at this triangle data. So we use PBIS which is positive behavior interventions and supports within our district. In order to be considered a PBIS school that has great climate and culture, you need this green section here to be at 80% or higher. That green section represents 0 to 1 referrals. At the middle school this year, they are so close. They're at 75%. And I know that, I just know because we've been working so hard, that next year they are going to hit that 80% mark so that we can be considered a PBIS school. This is the information on suspension data for the high school, similar to the middle school, where most of the referrals that are going through are going to be in this section of out of school or in school suspension, just due to the nature of the behavior. And yet again, similar to the middle school, our numbers are still looking where we have a higher number of Black students versus any other student, and their enrollment percentage higher. And a lot of that is just due to the specific student that is having the behavior that is suspendable.
Dr. White, since I know it's potentially a question, can you go over what some like you and I are both in the meetings where we're tearing our hair out, trying to figure out ways to reduce some of these things, and especially as it relates to physical altercation. Can you talk about some of the analysis that you and others have gone through in the district and kind of go back one slide so that
Sure.
board members and community members can hear some of those thoughts from you?
Yeah, so either in general of me overhearing it, me getting these reports from the principal who's hearing it from the others. When it comes to fighting, what we often find is that students, particularly students of color, tend to fight in school because they know that fight could get broken up. It is a controlled area with adults and supervision where they feel at times they can get that out, but they can get that out to the point where it will be diffused before it got any worse than it could be if students were out on the streets. So we hear that a lot. Oftentimes really working with some of our students who, and this is actually statistics where in Black and brown families, counseling and mental health support is not always open in those communities. So having them learn the skill to be able to work through some of these problems that they're working through physically, but trying to find other ways to work through sometimes can be difficult. So really figuring out ways to support them in that way where they don't have to use the physical aggression to be able to get to situations where it is erupted into a fight in school. We're really trying to focus on getting a lot of parent buy-in to be able to support us in these efforts. But the biggest thing that we hear is that it's much easier for them to fight in school. Madam President.
Thank you. At first, I'm glad that you touched upon the staff in the hallways, because one of the things that we've spoke about as a board over the years is what we did differently, say 20, 30 years ago, maybe more, to what we were doing. And we just simply didn't have the resources, right? We didn't have the means to be able to do some of the same things. We know what worked, we know what didn't work. I'm glad to hear you touched upon staff in the hallways, because that was going to be my ask. In addition to not just staff, because, active staff who are teaching, we need supports outside of them. So glad to hear that we had guards and so forth in there helping to just not necessarily have to break anything up, but just being a presence, and that alone is a support. My first question though was with the decrease, has any of that decrease been related to an increase in parental engagement?
I think that there are pieces of that we can say that are with parental engagement, especially when they're having those meetings coming out of a suspension and being able to lower the recidivism. In the beginning of the year, both at the high school and the middle school, they did a lot of communication out to parents and actually taking half the morning, really talking to students about the reestablished procedures and protocols and rules that are going on within the building. I think that there's been areas where both principals from the high school and the middle school can tell you that they've really gotten some parent buy-in to be able to support, especially with like the cell phone and really trying to utilize situational awareness when they're seeing things happening with kids revving up before it explodes into something else. So really getting parents to make those phone calls into us, giving us the information about things that may have happened over the weekend or happened the night before, so that we really can start working on those students before, once they get right in the building before it implodes.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as the ratio of suspension for the different ethnicities, do you attribute that to maybe just a culture of communication and behavior, with some students coming from more of a trauma-based environment before coming into the Pottstown School District, and us needing to recognize those and provide supports? Or are you seeing more of those behaviors for, and if do we even have that sort of pendulum ratio to say these students actually were born and raised here, and they're still causing, it's still a behavior. Or I don't know if we have that as a split out to know whether a lot of these issues are stemming from trauma-based environment where they're coming from a sort of fight to defend just purely everyday living. And that's kind of the mentality, and that's hard to break for adults. So it would definitely be difficult for youth who aren't fully developed mentally. So again, sorry, my question is, do we have a take on the behaviors stemming from any particular focus area, those who are moving in from trauma-based environments versus those who were born and raised here?
I think that's a great question. I think when you look at the data, it's actually more of a potpourri of things that are happening. I think you do see definitely the trauma behind a lot of the students and the things that they're working through. And it's hard to say, oh, this is trauma, because we can point what our trauma is that somebody else may not view as trauma. So I think we have a large number of students who come from that background. One thing that I have seen, because I've actually combed through this data a lot. So what I have seen was names reappearing again and again. And then sometimes you'll see the siblings of those students and they're reappearing again and again. So whether they've moved in and been with us for a couple of years or we've had them along the way, the thing is, we're starting to see a pattern of students who, once you sit down and you really talk to them about what's going on, it's other things that have led to this, and or it's outside influences that have led to this. But the culture thing is huge, because being able to walk away and not be called this or be called that, I feel like social media in of itself is a trauma that some of our students deal with, because all of that trauma is at fingertip, and
Right.
And that button can easily be pressed by anyone at any time, which makes it so much more difficult. But I think in knowing that is why we went so hard on having so many mental health supports in our schools, and continue to grow in those areas, and then have those supports look different with the art therapy, the movement therapy, being able to do groups. Even the way that they're structuring lunch at the high school, I believe, gives them the ability to confidentially go and talk to somebody if they need to, without somebody asking why they're leaving class. So I think all of these different pieces, a lot of it at the high school came directly from the students. And from the teachers, from the people who are boots on the ground that are working directly with those kids, and being able to see some of the things that they're going through, and be able to offer, like, hey, I think we might need something in this area, or I know somebody would want to utilize this if they had access to that. So it's a combination of anything. It's not enough to say it's just one group.
Sure, absolutely. Agreed. All right, thank you so much.
Yep. So this is the high school's triangle data report. As you can see, they are considered now a PBIS model school. They actually will be getting featured to be able to talk about the things that they've done from turning their school around, so that they are now over 80% in the green. So kudos to the team, the teachers, the staff, the parents. It took all of them for them to get there. It was not just one thing. So I definitely want to say congratulations to them with that. And that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open it up for more questions.
I don't see any hands raised. Do
I was about
you?
to say, and that's time.
Okay, that means you answered our questions.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And certainly, if anyone has any questions or anything that we'd like to drill down further, certainly we could give Dr. White a quick email and see what else we need or what information she can provide. She's drilled down on this seemingly quite intensive. So appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so it looks like I don't see the agenda, but I think we're at the policies, which may not be ready. I think they're still under review. Is that correct, Mr. Boyer?
Yes. All five of these, well, the three policies related to Title IX are still under review. The two policies that we had reviewed last month, 218 and 218.1,
Mhm.
they actually coincide a bit with the new Title IX policy. So I've had a number of conversations back and forth with Fox Rothschild. So right now, I don't have an update on them except that we're looking to try to finalize things with them moving into our November meeting with the hope that I have a new draft of things to present to the committee, whichever ones are actually ready. There's some consistency things that need to be with all of the policies related to forms and some language. And once they're all finished for the committee to review, I'll kind of go over those recommendations.
Okay, I just have one question. I did read through them um, uh, without going too much into the, actual referenced information that we utilized within there, that the links that reference us back to original documentation, be it with PDE. But the policy 218.1 for weapons, I know one of the bigger things that our parents and students, specifically for our female athletes and co-curricular students who are involved in having to walk home by themselves in the dark and so forth. I know there was a general, there were some weapons that were just, specifically named, and then there was a broader term that just mentioned anything that would cause or could inflict significant bodily harm. I was wondering, since this is always a topic, it always comes up, about pepper spray.
Yeah,
Um,
I can comment on that, Madam President.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So let me first of all go on record and kind of out myself here. I'm gonna get myself in all sorts of trouble, but I think that's okay. As a father of three girls, I don't think pepper spray should be considered a weapon. That's my personal opinion, and I will, at the right time, advocate for that. I think pepper spray is a non-lethal deterrent of physical aggression against individuals. However, we have debated, and Dr. White got out of here as quickly as possible. I would put her on the spot. We have debated the back and forth of pepper spray in the schools, and the fact that it is specifically named in the law repeatedly, and considered a weapon by PDE and within regulations, and by that I mean school code. So at this time, although we take many of those things into consideration when it comes to the disciplinary consequence, and I think that's all that I can say in a public venue, it is not our recommendation at this time to change anything as it relates to pepper spray, because of those constraints. We will be keeping an eye on it. And again, I already kind of outed myself in terms of the direction that I would like to recommend eventually, but we are not there, and we would potentially put the district in some civil or other litigious situations if we went against specific laws. So there you go. That's the absolute and unvarnished truth.
Thank you. I would then make the ask that when we have late returns from bus trips, that we try to coordinate bus stops for those students. We don't have that many where it would cause a significant delay to the driver. I would ask that our students then be that a coordinated bus stop in strategic areas be there so that parents don't have to go all the way to the school to pick them up, or those students are closer to home, that if they don't have a parent or guardian at home who can retrieve them, especially when the buses are delayed. We've had this issue for some time across the board, regardless of female or male curriculars. But I do know that there was a time when our students have been able to be let off closer to their homes, and it was a safer sort of scenario, and parents were also able to meet them there. But we certainly have a walking district, but late in the evening, when we have issues with transportation that has been delayed through no fault of our parents and or our students, I think that we have some sort of onus to go a step further and make sure that there is a drop off for those students closer to their residence. I will make that ask, and you go with it as you do. We vet it out properly, but I think that as a district, that's something that we should work on.
Yes, ma'am. I'll look into that, and we'll see. I think there are some standardized protocols already, but uh don't know what they are exactly. So I would never want to guess. But yeah, that those are great ideas, and I'll absolutely bring that back and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, Mr. Boyer, go right ahead.
Okay. Any other questions on the five policies that are still up to be updated and reviewed before I move on to the next one? Okay. The next one is just for discussion only. It's policy 214 related to class rank. And I will open it up for the committee. Give me a second.
You want me to begin, Mr.?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna blow it up a little bit. It's small.
Yeah, right. So I can begin. This is a conversation, unless you tell us to do otherwise. At this point, we're just thinking that we're going to have a conversation. So last month we had a good conversation about valedictorian, salutatorian, and what that entailed, and I appreciated all of the comments. And as promised, we took that all back to the team, and quite frankly, there were some really good suggestions made by committee members, and we listened well. Mrs. Lawrence has some specific experience in this issue, and everybody had some really great comments. So, we went back and we said to ourselves, what is the goal here? The goal is not to eliminate competition. Health competition is something that we we absolutely use in the classroom every single day. What we don't want is unhealthy competition, or what I refer to as a Hunger Games type mentality, where our highest level kids are making decisions, chasing after something that doesn't really make that much of a difference in terms of their overall um, academic career. And the differences are to the hundredth degrees of a point. And so we want to make sure to keep first things first. And a lot of other school districts, I'd say not quite half, but a lot of other school districts are recognizing that and taking action. And that's definitely where the trend is. However, we heard what the committee members were saying, in that, well, wait a second, you don't necessarily have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, that's fair. So we began to brainstorm, and Mrs. Lawrence had said, well, why are you showing them their class rank as early as you are? And we actually, it's not like we let kids look at their class rank every single day. But they do see them. So we thought to ourselves, what if we kept valedictorian and salutatorian? We already know that we take a lot of input from our students. So, we can make some changes, as there were great suggestions as to, how to honor lots of folks in the graduation ceremony, et cetera. We can make those changes. Obviously, we need to vet those out because it's a huge ceremony and we don't want to make too many changes. But in terms of policy, does it make sense to not, people can calculate their class rank. You can't
They
stop.
do.
But does it make sense to allow our counselors and our teachers and administrators to say, listen, we're going to have a valedictorian and salutatorian, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is for you and your education. So we think that we could change the culture without, again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater by saying we're not gonna acknowledge class rank until your final report card and your final transcript. And then we are going to acknowledge it, and we are going to name a valedictorian and salutatorian. But we're not going to make the big, huge deal, or rather, we're going to try and de-emphasize it. So this one line, class rank, will only be calculated at the end of the last semester of a student's senior year. We think could perhaps address both the situation that staff have been finding themselves in, but at the same time hold fast to the time-honored tradition of valedictorian salutatorian. So we wanted to throw that out as an idea and hear any feedback you have, or just let it sit for a while. Again, we already know we're not going to change anything immediately, so we can let it sit for a while and decide later. So I give it back to you, Mrs. Bearden.
Thank you. So I did see that, and I thought, man, that would really be helpful for staff, not to have to, field so many calls and questions and so forth until that time, right? But even then, there will be problems, right? We know it's not going to come to the end and everyone be like, oh no, this was great. It's exactly right. That said, do we provide transparency of calculation to know what is weighted and what that weighted calculation is? For example, we listen to know that advanced placement has a higher calculation than, say, taking a dual enrollment class. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. We updated and changed that, and Mrs. Lawrence knows some of the story there. But after a few years of examination, we updated and changed that. So yes, within the book of courses, and they go by many different names, but the general studies book, or whatever you like to call it. So when we do course selection, can sometimes be called a course selection guide. Every single course has a number, it has a description, it's within a department, and the weighting, which is what you're referring to, is specifically and clearly named.
Okay.
And advanced placement and dual enrollment courses are identical.
Okay. So I do know there was a differentiation before. I know that is a communication that I've heard almost every parent who has a student that is super competitive, right? And has really driven to do the work to be in the runnings for valedictorian, salutatorian, and hats off to those students. I love that piece. I love their focus and their drive. It's amazing. It's a beautiful and wonderful accomplishment. That said, not to take anything away from the rest of our students, right? Because as I've always said to our students, what your title and or initials behind your name list do not make or dictate or determine your level of success in life. That's just a fact. It's helpful, but that does not mean that you yourself will not be successful or possibly more successful than someone who acquires a further degree, or even makes valedictorian or salutatorian status, or has distinguished honors or doesn't. All of our students who are striving to do great work, amazing. Those who find that school is not for them, still come out and become entrepreneurs and are successful in various walks of their lives. So I wanted to make sure that our students and our parents who are listening understand that. Please make sure that you are telling your students, as well as we do, that this status does not dictate success or lack of success. But for those who are in the running, yes, they definitely calculate it. They are competitive. Their parents also help them with that calculation. I just want to make sure that we're transparent and everything across the board so that we don't wait until the last semester and a student finds something and their calculation is different than because our calculation needs to be consistent. You said it's published. They can easily see it. And that everyone is aware of those students' classes, that I don't know if they're taking night classes, just dual enrollment classes during the day, could be doing both, that all of that information, our counselors are constantly reinforcing to the students to provide that information, and that those courses have to be approved, right, to make sure that they can be calculated in for your students' ranking. So I just wanted to make sure that I know that will be a question. Especially since I never I never did. I was not one of those parents who was like, I'm calculating down to it. Not that I didn't have a competitive student, but she definitely was. But that just wasn't her piece. For those that it is, I want to make sure that they have the information they need and they know where to find it. And that if they have any questions, that they contact their building counselors, and that they can be provided that direction so that if they want to on their own begin those calculations, that they're able to do that. But no, I like this. I like this for me. You're asking our opinion. I like that it is going to be listed and calculated at the end of the last semester. I think that is very helpful for our building staff. But I don't want it to ever appear that we are less than transparent for our parents and students by doing so. That was a
Thank
little
you.
wordy way of saying that, but I just wanted to be clear.
Great feedback. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else with feedback on that?
Mrs. Lawrence has her hands up.
I think I do. Yes. Yeah, first of all, yeah, I like this. I'm just a little confused, so just for clarity, the sentence right above it though. So how can they request a copy if they're not calculating it till the end of the senior year?
Well, Mrs. Lawrence, that would be because we messed up. That shouldn't be there. That should be crossed out.
Okay.
So it's just it was a draft, and I asked.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah. That's a great catch. Thank you. That would be super confusing and
Okay. Okay. So otherwise, yes. Otherwise, yeah, I think it does definitely gets to the heart of what I was trying to say the last time, that that I do think it's a good thing to earn for those students who earn whatever, and I think it's good, but I don't think they need to be calculated. And Mrs. Beard is right. I mean, I know they'll sit there and try to calculate it, but it's not official. And also, in order to tell their class rank, they would have to know other people's averages, and they may or may not all be sharing that information. So I like this. I think it will take that piece of constant nerve and competition like that out of it. I do still want to I know that you said that the recognition, I still think though it would be also nice to have what we said the last time about having some level, and students who, like maybe the honors diploma students, having a little bit more of a recognition or something where anybody who gets to that level can get some kind of whatever, like I said, recognition, whatever you want to call it. Because that isn't really a competitive piece, that's just working to your own ability. Doesn't matter if there's 10 people that make that level or 2,500, whatever. So, but otherwise I do like that.
This is great feedback. Thank you. And I will tell you that particular suggestion you made got my attention, got the rest of the team's attention. They were like, yeah, we often say like, oh, this person got 104.5, and everybody's like, how do you get above 100? And of course, that's because of the weighting. And so yeah, we brought that back. We're like, wow, that would be pretty cool. And they threw around some ideas, but of course, everybody likes to throw around ideas. We would have to merge that with everything we do within the ceremony. But we really
Right.
like it a lot, and
Okay.
I would humbly submit that you should look for some differences in how they do graduation. And again, I won't take that away from the high school principal. That's his show. Mrs. Bearden and I are on the stage, but they handle most of the details. But yeah, they like that idea a lot.
Good. Okay. Yep.
Mrs. Bearden, should I go with Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, please.
I like the direction this is going in. I personally would still prefer going further, but I see this as if this is what the board supports, I'd love to see if over the course of a few years it begins to make a dent in this, the problems that were being seen, because maybe that's enough to do the job. Um, the other thing that I was kind of wondering, it's more of a question, what what is the competition around? Is it of the label valedictorian and salutatorian and the idea of being number one? Is it about how they're honored in the ceremony? Is it about giving the speech? Like, what is the core of it?
Uh, I don't know that it's about giving the speech, because that's actually a point of contention and concern, because they don't know until the end. I think it's the head nod factor. The oh, you're valedictorian. Ooh, and by the way, I'm all for that. Like that's actually a nice thing to be called. What I'm not for is the stuff beforehand. Like honor given where it's due is a good thing. Sleepless nights and taking anxiety medicine
Hmm.
because you're not number one, or you might not be. That's the part that we're trying to get to. So no,
Right.
I think it has a lot to do with the um He-Man, I have the power, man on the hill, or
Yeah.
woman, like the who is number one. It's that competition more than anything.
Okay. And that makes sense. I mean, and I agree. If this wasn't causing problems, I'd be like, cool. Like, giving honor where it's due is great. Like, it's one of the many ways students can something and win it or not, but at least find out how to achieve excellence along the way. It's those side effects of like, this is so important, that are really concerning. And I think that's true of all of us on the board. It's just a matter of how do we mitigate that. So yeah, I'm definitely in support of making this move and then kind of tracking, like, does it work, or do the students all end up sharing this information and it almost is a wash. But if it would save the teachers some headache and the school counselors a headache, that's also hugely beneficial.
Thank you.
And I will just add in that a big part of the distinguished piece of the attainment of valedictorian, salutatorian, a lot of times for the students is the difference between a full ride scholarship at a top-notch university versus not. So the understanding is being able to put this information on your application lends a huge, especially if you're doing things early. A lot of these students are putting this information in early and they're formulating essays. They are traveling to, during their senior year, end of junior year, but definitely in the crossroads of their senior year. And they want to know that information as soon as possible to be able to secure a specific level in a top-notch university. Now, that is the assumption,
That
right?
is correct, but that
That
is
is the
not
assumption.
reality.
So that
Right.
is
Thank you.
right. But that is what the communication is when you're talking about students at this level who are being quite competitive. Their piece is, if I make one of these, then I will get a spot, a secured
Harvard
spot.
and Yale. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Princeton and
that's a big
Stanford.
piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. If if
It's the
Harvard
assumed.
and yeah, if
Mhm.
Harvard and Yale took nothing but valedictorians, they would still have an entry rate of 2%.
Right.
It's not thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. That is one of the number one things we deal with. I'll get a full ride scholarship. No, you won't. I mean, maybe if you're also an amazing basketball player, but minus that, and you might get some scholarships, but you're not going to get a full ride just because you're valedictorian, because there are valedictorians of classes of 10,000 and valedictorians of classes of 10, and everything in between in the Commonwealth of Penn. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, it sounds like we have a direction. So not this month, but next month we'll clean this up and have it on the agenda to be voted on at the full board meeting in November. Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
So moving on to personnel, we have.
So we have one item under personnel that relates to our high school, middle school cross-country program. I have some information that I'd like to go over with the committee related to looking at us adding a middle school cross-country coach next school year. We're in a position now where our high school program currently sits at 8 students that run, 4 boys and 4 girls. There were only 2 boys on the team last year, and we didn't have any female on the team at all. The middle school participation rate currently sits at 12 students, 7 boys and 5 girls. So we've had a 50% increase in students that came out of what we had a middle school club last year. And, prior to last year, there were no opportunities at all for the middle school to participate in cross country. Mr. Harvey, who is the head high school coach, has gone to great lengths to recruit for the program, do all kinds of things. If you know anything about Mr. Harvey, like running is his passion, and he's very well known in the running community. And we're very lucky to have him as our cross country. I mean, beyond lucky. I mean, he's phenomenal. There is an additional interest that the coaching staff and Mr. Baker have generated, that we have currently 24 sixth graders that their participation in the club, and the goal of that is to have those 24 participate in the middle school team next year. But what we're looking at doing now is asking the committee to support us hiring and having a middle school dedicated coach. Right now we have 3 cross country coaches right now. We have a head coach and we have one assistant position, but it's occupied by 2 people who split the funds. And what we would like to do is dedicate one of those people to a hired middle school coach so that we can continue to grow the program. Having that extra person, would allow for that person to be dedicated to the middle school program. And then, we would be able to formulate and enter them into a Pac-10 middle school schedule, which we don't currently do right now. I don't know if the committee has any questions. I welcome to try to answer them, but it's definitely a positive that we have more kids involved in running, and our sixth graders have shown interest in it with the hope that they'll be running next year in 7th grade.
So I will go ahead and say that anything that's going to help to support our students reaching the next level and having some skill set to support their activities, whether they are involved in a chess club or any actual physical sport that's outside on a track, that keeps them engaged and wanting to continue to thrive and keep their grades up. I'm for it, as long as we can support it and the need is there. So if we are saying that we have, increase, like you said, we've increased it 50% plus for students, and clearly the desire is there. This is the equivalent to what we've been discussing for years and wanting to start up a feeder program, and this is right in our middle school, so I would be in favor of it. I don't know what the rest of the committee would think. They're not all here, so I don't want to speak for them. Perhaps it can be brought up again in next meeting. I don't know how quickly you'd be looking to hire. I would assume you'd want to do it right away, but I would like the other committee members to who are not present to be able to chime in on that. But personally, I'm in favor of it.
We would like to hear, I think Mrs. Lawrence is on the committee. We definitely like to hear from her, but no, there is no rush. This season is coming to a close, so we can take board action in November. But Mrs. Lawrence, what say you?
Oh, I'm for it. Any opportunity, if it's a need there, it's fine with me.
Thank you.
So we will look at adding this to the November agenda.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. I can move on to the informational items, Ms. Bearden, if you would like.
Please.
The first informational item is girls flag football. I do have some information for you related to, our discussion at our September board meeting. Some of these things you might know, but I would like to go through them with the committee just to see your opinion on some things. So recently, the PIAA has voted to, make girls flag football a sanctioned sport. There's over 115 schools in PA that now have an official flag football team. Currently, we have two in our conference, which would be Springport and Pope John Paul. Girls flag football is considered a spring sport, and with the current schools in the area, teams have been placed in different divisions and schedules have been created for the spring season. There have been students that have been inquiring about a team, when a team would start. Mr. Baker has sent out a survey, and currently on the survey, there were three things that were surveyed: girls flag football, esports, and jiu-jitsu or a self-defense type of club. On the survey, specifically to flag football, there was 40 girls interested in that, and 26 of the 40, that was their first choice that they would like to begin and participate in that. The field of flag football team, I'm not exactly sure what the numbers look like for that, but 26 would definitely be above and beyond what we would need to field a team if they would all want to play. Basically, during the next PAC meeting in October, on October 8th, members of the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be coming to talk to the athletic directors. And what is happening is that right now they're offering funding for schools that are interested in starting a team. This could potentially include everything from equipment, training, money towards the coaches' stipends for the first year. But more than likely, they're only offering that this year, and that's it. Next year, the funding won't be available from specifically the Philadelphia Eagles. Currently, the only issue with the flag football that Mr. Baker has told me that he worries about is that anytime you start a new type of sport, how that then negatively impacts any other teams because everybody draws to one and then, you have a trickle down effect. If we were in favor of doing anything with flag football, in order to gain the funding piece that is being offered, we would have to move pretty quickly on that. And also, Mr. Baker is going to try to nail down the survey with, a meeting with the group of people that have shown interest to really gauge, like, some real intimate details as to, where they're at with committing to something. But that's the information that is the most current with flag football. We do have interest, and we do have a meeting coming up on the 8th with the Pac-10 and the affiliation with the NFL to try to really rev this up in PA. So I don't.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to ask that because that's always a concern. How many of the 40 are actually that have interest, expressed interest, are actually involved in another spring sport where this would cause issue? You mentioned 26 of the 40, this being their primary choice. Of the 20, those 26, I would assume that number means, since that's termed their primary choice, that perhaps those 26 are already members of another spring sport.
I don't know that for sure, but I would safe to say that they're involved in something.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, if we are to be able to receive funding, and our deadline is October 8th,
well,
we're at October 3rd.
Yeah, sorry to cut. It's not the deadline. That's the meeting that they're having with the Pac-10 ADs on October 8th, where I think, according to what Mr. Baker has told me, they're going to try to make some decisions after that. Individual schools will, depending on what is actually said at that meeting by the NFL.
Right. No, I'm not saying that we have a deadline to make a decision per se with PAC or our division. I mean, for the funding that these NFL coaches, you mentioned October 8th being the target, with them having the communication with us. And I'm assume they'd be looking for us to make some sort of, commitment soon thereafter, right? Either then or soon thereafter, to say, yes, we're interested, and what can you do for us? I would personally, I would say, if we are able to secure that funding to support this sport, I always wanted to see flag football be something. I never thought it would ever make it for girls to this point. Just like wrestling and volleyball, those were things that we, as girls, young women, I wanted to play football, and we weren't allowed. We could not secure it. So I am so grateful to see that we have that capability. So if we can help our young ladies participate in another sport like flag football, I'm all in on it. That's especially with funding.
Mr. Baker's here. Justin, if you wouldn't mind, Ms. Bearden, Justin, did I miss any of the details that could give them, the board, a better understanding of it?
I apologize. I only caught like the tail end of what you were talking about. So my apologies if I reiterate something. So I guess just what I was hearing so far. So just to put the timeline in perspective, that the October 8th is when we meet as athletic directors and principals next. We have a monthly meeting, and every other month is principals and ADs. We just selected that month because the Philadelphia Eagles was in contact with one of the schools to try and come to one of our meetings. So basically, they're going to do their presentation of currently what's going on in the realm of girls flag football in the state of Pennsylvania. Obviously, if some of you are aware, it just got voted as a sanctioned sport in PIAA, so it's an official sport recognized by the PIAA. And really, just to kind of put things in perspective, the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers originally had kind of a 5-year plan to make girls flag football an official PA sport. This is year 3, and they've accomplished it sooner than they thought they were. So where the realm kind of comes in is that they're potentially looking to have this be the final year in which they're offering those potential incentives, because originally they wanted to do it to be like, hey, let's jumpstart it. We're willing to get you guys going, and then hopefully it takes off from there. So I don't want necessarily maybe just that misconception be like, if we don't have something in by October 8th, like the window is closed, but the window is closing faster because they were able to be so successful with getting girls flag football as recognized in the state sooner than what they originally planned on for that. So, and then just to kind of put perspective, there was 90 7 students that filled out the Google form that I shared about potential clubs and activities. Matt's right with the number that 40 individual students showed interest to that. There was a question saying if they selected multiple clubs within the Google form, if they had to pick one, which one would be your first? 26 of them said flag football if they selected other ones. So I haven't been able to dive deep into all the responses and the details. I told Matt I would get something a little bit more finite into specific responses, but really the goal is how I handled uh, girls volleyball when we brought it on was the same thing. I gauged that interest. I had that initial informational meeting. I explained just the logistics of just how the season would potentially work and everything. And I asked those important questions. Do you have it's a spring season? Are you aware of that? Do you have any conflicting things that could be an issue with an after school activity? That could be if they played another spring sport. It could be a job. It could be other things to really just kind of see like, hey, are people interested or are people really interested in trying to be a part of the girls flag football team if we were to have one. So
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we can, I think after the meeting on the 8th, I can bring back some information to our next meeting or even give it to you through email if anything is changing or urgent. I know we have the interest, and then also, there's it's a real sport now with the Pac-10, so or with the sanctioned sport. So we're in a different spot than we were before. But
Okay. Any other communication wanted or desired on that right now? No, I don't think there's another agenda item. Oh, there was a notice of some sort, was there?
yeah, there's just one thing that I wanted to just briefly show the committee. It's just it's a newsletter that the HR office is putting together to put out to kind of highlight, our new staff, in not all of our new staff. Obviously, I can't put everyone in here, but it's just, it's highlights some of our new hires, some people that were hired recently, as of last end of last school year. There's also in here an information section that is towards the end. It really does center around trying to promote our new staff to give them uh, a face with a name in the district. And it also is going to, further advertise our employment opportunities, give people information related to clearances, which we get questions about that, where to find them, how to get them, quick hit links. There's going to be, some videos in here related to, our teachers and our kids. Some things related to the new Title IX regulations. Once some things are finalized with that are be able to advertise. And then also, I'm tempting to try to do this, quarterly with just a distribution of it as we can, finalize some things and have some notoriety for some of our new hires in the district. I just wanted to show the committee that. Right.
Thank you. Okay. Just double checking. Do we have any public comments signed in?
Not at this time, Madam President.
Great. So we are at time then, and we can turn it over to Mrs. Lawrence then for curriculum and co-curriculars.
See everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer.
Okay. Thank you, President Bearden. I guess we're ready to go. So I will call to order the curriculum committee. Any public comment?
Not at this time,
Not
Mrs.
at this. Okay, thank you, Nick. All right, Mr. Oxenford, I guess I turn it to you.
We have a couple visitors tonight. handful of informational items, IT updates, co-curricular updates, short video, or something called the Vision Van. Give a quick snapshot of some of the scheduled field trips for the start of the school year, and then a quick glance at what is planned for October 11th and November 1st for our in-service. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Lentz. Mr. Lentz, are you good with me just going ahead and playing our first video?
Sure. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to join everyone tonight here. I'll put a little video together with some IT updates. So go ahead, Mr. Oxenford.
Good evening. This summer, the IT department completed several projects to improve our technology infrastructure and better support staff and students. I'll highlight 6 key projects that have set us up for a more efficient school year. From revamping the Chromebook rollout to updating the help desk system and refreshing classroom technology, these initiatives are essential for meeting the district's evolving needs. Let's dive in. The 6 major summer projects included Chromebook rollout, updated building support, MIS interns, new help desk system, elementary smart boards, and additional updates. For the Chromebook rollout, we minimized disruptions by completing it within the first 2 weeks of school. Starting with the high school followed by middle and elementary buildings, the project was completed in just 8 days, ensuring students had Chromebooks early, reducing downtime, and maximizing instructional time. For updated building support, we redesigned schedules to evenly distribute support across all buildings, allowing for more on-site assistance from IT techs. This streamlined task completion and ticket closure, reducing downtime for staff and students. The MIS interns were key in completing summer IT projects efficiently. They gained practical, real-world IT experience in a K-12 setting and received guidance to help them develop their skills and explore IT careers. We migrated all old tickets into Incident IQ with no disruption and piloted it within IT before the district-wide rollout. We created how-to guides and videos for staff, and the system went live at the start of the school year, streamlining support requests. It now features improved tracking with customized categories, and we are enhancing reports for both IT and staff. This also helps with workload management and resolving recurring issues. In the elementary smart boards project, we replaced outdated boards in all elementary buildings, focusing on the district's heaviest users. The project was managed with IT and maintenance teams, completed on time before the school year, and provided teachers and students with upgraded tools for interactive learning. Additional updates include implementing Google Classroom integration with PowerSchool to automatically import rosters, grades, and assignments. A major staff request. We also automated attendance letter generation in PowerSchool, reducing manual work. Toshiba copiers were located to better meet staff needs, and new network drops were installed to improve connectivity. Lastly, staff refresher training on key technologies was provided to ensure a smooth start to the year. In conclusion, the IT department made significant progress this summer in enhancing technology systems and supporting our schools. These projects reflect our commitment to improving user experience, increasing efficiency, and supporting student success. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to further improving our technology landscape. Thank you for listening. Please let us know if there are any questions. Good evening. This summer, the
All right. Thank you, Mr. Oxenford. Got a little creative there, trying to put a video together to make that a little more entertaining. Sometimes our work that's behind the scenes can seem a little bit dry, but it's really incredible, and I'm very proud here. I know we've got Nick actually on, who's always helping you guys out. Nick was crucial in all these summer projects here, and I did want to highlight the Chromebook rollout. That was something that we did completely change, and we took the first 2 weeks of school, really focused on how to do the rollout differently this year to make sure we would get every device out as quickly as possible. And then with the Incident IQ, which is our new help desk system, IT actually has been asking for a new system themselves for a while. So I was so glad that we were able to put that together. That's really helped a lot of staff here and reduce a lot of time it takes to resolve tickets and issues and increase our communication. So it was a really busy summer. Summer is always our busy time for IT, prepping for the new school year. But thank you, Mr. Oxenford. And thanks for letting me make a video. That was actually pretty fun to put that together. But I just want to pause there and see if there are any questions.
Oh, Mr. Hilton has a question.
I do. Can you tell me what MIS stands for?
Oh, those are our oh my gosh, drawing a blank here. Our management information, yes, systems. These are basically our tech students here that are in a specific class with Mr. Woodley. Sorry about that. I always forget the M in that. But these students, they were really helpful this year. We had two over the summer that we got to really work closely with. And we're actually coordinating with them now to try to do a co-op throughout the school year and get them involved a little bit further, which is fantastic. But they were huge help over the summer and they got a lot of good experience.
So every kid, let's go to June, every kid has a Chromebook. And I really don't know. Do they turn them back in June? Do they keep them?
So it depends on the grade level. That's a great question. We do a refresh cycle every 4 years. So that's grades 1, 5, and 9. And then if, let's say, I am an 8th grader going into 9th grade, I'll get a new Chromebook that'll be my Chromebook from 9th grade through 12th grade. And then what we do is we take the 12th grade Chromebooks and we repurpose them as loaners to use throughout the district, which we do lean on heavily. And that's due to the warranties that we get on Chromebooks run for so many years. We try to keep them in line with those 3 different grade levels. The other students who aren't falling in a refresh cycle, they do get to keep their Chromebooks. However, it depends if they are at, say, the elementary level. We will go ahead and put them in. We have a bunch of blue bins, and I know Nick loves the blue bins here, that we have to move around and reorganize over the summer so that way when the students come back to their classroom, especially at the elementary level, teacher can just go right to their bin. All their student Chromebooks are there. They're ready to rock and roll.
So what years are they getting new Chromebooks?
Grades 1, 5, and 9.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Sounds like no. Must be nice to be good with tech and you can make that nice video, and I wish I could do that. But anyway, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Trust me, I had to use like 4 different platforms to make that happen, but it was fun to figure out. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Mr. Baker with a co-curricular update. Justin, I'm glad you're able to make it. I know he had homecoming practice followed by bonfires, followed by scrambling here to be part of this meeting. So I'm glad you made it.
Thank you so much. Yes, pleasure to be here. I'm making sure I can share my screen. Looks like that is good. All right. And everybody's able to see that okay? All right, so good evening, everyone. In case anybody on that does not know who I am, my name is Justin Baker. I'm the Director of Co-Curricular Activities here at Pottstown School District. I'm just trying to provide a fall recap for co-curriculars this school year. I'm not as tech savvy, so I'm going to do my best with my normal slideshow that I usually present. I do want to give a shout out to my assistant, Carissa, because she makes it aesthetically nicer looking. It would not be as pretty if I were to do that. So I wanted to give her credit for that. So for fall recap so far in co-curriculars, first thing I did want to talk about a little bit wise, there was some activity over the summer that we had. This summer, our girls basketball team was able to get funding from the Foundation for Pottstown Education to attend a Keystone State girls basketball camp in August. 11 Pottstown basketball girls were able to compete in several games during this camp, some team building experiences, and even experience the dorm life during the camp. I know that everybody had a positive experience from it, and I'm very grateful. They even wrote a letter directly to the foundation thanking them for being able to attend that camp. Excuse me. Going along in community relations as well, some of the things that we did in terms of honoring this year. On September 6th, the Pottstown Firebirds were recognized during one of our Friday night football games. For those of you that might not know who they are, the Pottstown Firebirds were a minor league football team who used the Pottstown High School Stadium as their home field from 1968 to 1970, winning the minor league championship in 69 and 70. They were able to get recognized prior to the game, individuals on the team and members that are affiliated with the team. And then there was also a sign that was actually put up next to the press box honoring that organization. So that was earlier this school year. Another honoring was we had the Pottstown High School class of 1974 celebrate their 50th reunion actually just last week. It was a week-long schedule of events with them. One of those events was attending the Pottstown football game on the 27th, and roughly around 75 alumni and family were in attendance at the game and other various events throughout the week. So that was last week. Community relations, some of the service things that we've done so far. There was many students, teams, and clubs who have already participated in a variety of service projects, even though we're only in October. HOSA held one of their annual blood drives at the high school. They usually do 2 to 3 a year. They had their first one last month. The middle school football team did their annual community cleanup event. What they usually do is that during their preseason, they take one of those days and they clean up the area around the middle school or even within the middle school. Our middle school field hockey also did a similar community cleanup. They cleaned up around their field hockey field, as well as the neighboring areas. One picture of them is just them with the bags of trash that they collected. And then the high school girls volleyball team just recently did a service event at the Dana Corporation on the 28th. And that's a picture of them at that service event. Diving in a little bit into just some of the fall sports highlights. We had Pottstown students competed in both the Pac girls tennis singles and doubles this year. Seniors Lily Freeze and Taylor McGuire, they've actually represented the Trojans all 4 years of their high school career at the Pac championship. So they actually competed in the singles and in the doubles. They actually made it to the semifinals because actually the Pac doubles were this week. They just missed beating their competitor in the semifinals, and actually they are slated to be the wild card representing the league, potentially making districts. So hopefully we find out in the next 24 hours if they were to make that or not. We had members of the golf team this year actually compete in the Pac Boys Golf Championship this year. That was held at Turtle Creek Golf Course. The last time we had anybody compete in that was actually before COVID. So the Pottstown golf team just recently came back just last year. And this was the first year we were able to get them actually members competing in the Pac Championship. We had 3 individuals compete in it this year. And then also this year, our golf team was actually able to get back to Brookside Country Club and use that country club as their home course. So they were able to have some home golf matches right there at Brookside Country Club. Some other fall sport highlights. This year, we were able to field 5 football teams. So we have a high school varsity team, a high school junior varsity team, a freshman football team, an 8th grade team, as well as a 7th grade team. So I've been here. This is year 18 for me at Pottstown School District, and I believe it's been at least 10 years since we last were able to field 5 football teams here at Pottstown. So that was great for numbers for football this year. Some other numbers from this year for fall sports. Fall athletic numbers have increased this year. In 2023, we had 170 high school athletes and 97 middle school athletes. This year, we have 223 high school athletes and 126 middle school athletes. So numbers are going up across the board at the middle school and high school. Just a couple other things to highlight. We had a full schedule for 7th grade football team this year, as well as freshman football team, which we did not have last year. We were also able to have the numbers to have some JV games for boys soccer this year, which we have not done in previous years. And we also continued to have JV contests for girls volleyball, girls tennis, and like I said, football, because last year we were able to just get them 1 or 2 games. This year they were able to have a full slated schedule. And then I just recently was informed that we had a good surge in middle school field hockey numbers. So we're going to get them a couple 7th grade games as well towards the later part of the season. Another fall sport highlight this year, we were actually recognized at the beginning of the year for winning the PAC Middle School Sportsmanship Award. So what that is over the previous last school year, at the end of each fall, winter, and spring season, each school's respective sports teams would vote on who they felt showed the best sportsmanship throughout that season. And Pottstown Middle School sports were recognized as having the highest vote across our conference. So that's a big accolade for us. I'm very proud that we were able to achieve that. One of the things that we did receive was we received certificate and recognition at our first PIAA District 1 meeting. That picture is from that with me and Dr. Ongia, the middle school principal. We will also receive a banner that our middle school will be able to hang up in their gym as well. So that was a huge accolade for us to achieve from last year. Now just to talk a little bit about fall co-curriculars in the horizon in the near future. The nearest future is this week is homecoming week at the high school. The bonfire was tonight. I was in attendance. I had to leave a little bit earlier, make sure I was at the meeting on time. Our homecoming game is tomorrow, October 4th against Phoenixville. Our annual ceremony presenting the homecoming court as well as the newly crowned king and queen will occur at halftime of that game. And then this Saturday, October 5th at the high school from 6:30 to 9:30 will be our homecoming dance. Last year was our first year we had one in a really long time. We got a great interest again, and I believe we sold, I should say sold, not should, I apologize, around 280 tickets for the event. So that's a great turnout again. I think we were right around there last year when we had our first homecoming dance. Another fall co-curricular in the horizon is this year's musical Chicago. They just finished their auditions, and I know their cast has been selected. That was announced earlier in the week by Mr. Decker. So be on the lookout. Performances, I believe, are set to be slated to be in February of next year. And as always, if you have seen my presentation before, I always wrap up with a picture with me and my daughter. And if you have any questions, that is the obligatory first day of pre-K picture of me and my daughter. So.
No questions. See, that's so thorough. And your daughter's adorable. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Hilton has a question. Sorry, I missed you.
Mr. Baker, you had, I'm pleased you had the number of kids participating in sports. Can you break that down for us on a chart and send it to us by sport?
Absolutely. I can easily do that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. I think we've given a pretty healthy pause.
Yeah, I don't have the agenda.
No,
I'm waiting for you, Mr. Oxenford.
I apologize. All right, good. Next couple items I do have. I call it the Vision Van, but it's actually called the Vision to Learn Van. There's a video that Anthony Santiago helped put together. Well, he did put together in pretty short notice because the Vision to Learn Van actually was happening. Part of it was happening this week. Just to capture a couple metrics with this, they give an upwards of 250 pairs of glasses to our school district, and this serves students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Typically, they come every other year, and then in between years, work on doing replacements and repairs. And with that, I'm going to turn the video over to sort of capture all of the details and give you some insight into it.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dana Girth. I am the coordinator of MTSS here at the Pottstown School District. And we have an MTSS process where we look at the needs of the whole child. And a major issue that we have to take into consideration is if the student needs any type of vision care. So we want our students to be able to read clearly in order to receive their interventions and make academic growth. So in the summer of 2022, we started looking for someone to partner with to come in and help us make sure that our students who might not be passing their vision exams had an opportunity to receive eye care and glasses. We found an organization called Vision to Learn. That is a national organization, serves the whole country, and has over 50 mobile Vision to Learn units that will come visit schools and provide eye exams and eyewear. So we are in a cycle right now where they're coming to give a full district visit and help nurses screen students in kindergarten through 12th grade to help find out who will need further services for their vision, including exams and glasses. So the vans are coming to our schools right now. They are arriving with fully loaded equipment to conduct eye exams and licensed optometrists. And Vision to Learn is operating with funding from Medicare, partnered with donations, and legislative funding from state and federal levels. So right now, our students are getting their eye exams, and within 2 weeks of that exam, they'll have glasses delivered to the building. And the really exciting thing about Vision to Learn is they support us in our off year with any replacement glasses that students need, or if we have new transferred in students that need a total vision exam, they will come in their off year and assist us with those students. So we are really excited for our Pottstown kiddos to have their glasses and hit the ground running.
Any quick questions I might be able to answer or take back to Dr. Girth, who spearheaded the effort to bring that to us?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good. So to piggyback on top of that, I'd like to head into talking about some of our field trips that we have planned for the start of the school year. So there are a bunch of things that sort of roll through this office, but one of those things is the approval for all of the field trips. This, I can assure you, does not capture all of the places where we take Pottstown district students. This is just what's been scheduled so far. So this doesn't mean that they've happened so far, but this is just what's been scheduled. And I can assure you that as the year goes on, this grows astronomically. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but I just want you to sort of see the things that we're doing to get people out into the community. Our health occupation students actually make their way to the elementary buildings and teach about proper hand washing to our pre-K, K, and 1 students. You see Mr. Irick, he gets our students out into the community competing and showing off their skills at all types of community events. Our life skills department are very good at taking their students out into the community and having good experiences. Remember, the point of this is just to sort of capture the variety of experiences that we're providing to our students outside of the classroom. And our high school counselors, they take our students to different universities, colleges over the course of the fall. And this is just what's been registered so far. And then coming up, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Pottstown Children's Discovery Center, who is now operational and has made arrangements to accommodate every single kindergarten, first and second grade Pottstown student. So we worked with Beth Desch over the course of the summer to coordinate an opportunity that all of our students could go there, and they're spending about 2 hours there. We call it like a half-day session, but the students are pretty much planning on having a half day out with the travel time, but they're going over there. And yesterday, I believe, was the first day we sent a building over there. Mr. Ishler gave some positive feedback about how well organized it was and what a great experience it was. And obviously, once we get pictures, we'll be sure to share those out on social media. But great local opportunity that's been in the works for a little while. Any questions on field trips? All right. And close it out. We do have in-service coming up. So next Friday, we have an early dismissal in-service. We have a few of those over the course of the year. We tried to spread them out. And what we're going to focus on, elementary has a variety of topics in this narrow window of time that they have to work with, but we squeeze every opportunity we have into those little opportunities for professional development where the staff can get together. Middle school is going to be working on CSI initiatives through their school improvement, focusing specifically on data review, PBIS, and the SRSS, which is a student risk screening scale. High school is going to do the same, but also continue professional development on universal design for learning, which Dr. D'Annibal led the initiative with getting a team acclimated to that last year. And it's just efforts with that have continued to spread over the course of the year. And in a couple weeks, we're actually, it's hard to believe we're saying November 1st is not that far away, but we'll have a full day in service with 3 primary areas of focus. We're going to do data review from our benchmark data. We do instructional planning. And what's nice about this with how it all fits together, and if you notice, parent conferences are earlier this year than they've been before. This is actually where we take the data, we do the instructional planning, but we do a nice job of preparing to speak very accurately about student progress at that point in the year with parents. And we make sure our teachers are well prepared to engage in those conversations. So with that, that is a complete list of information with some updates.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other comments or any other new business? Any public comments?
Not at this time, Mrs. Lawrence.
All right. Well, then I guess we're done. Wow, that was good. All right. All right. Well, then I guess we'll see everyone in November. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.